Hello, good evening, class. My name is Jared Thomas, and today I'm going to expand on Adams' equity theory of motivation. First and foremostly, I'm going to provide a definition of what this theory is and how it works, some key terms and concepts which need to be understood, an example which simplifies this concept, and lastly, some managerial practices which need to be employed if one is to advocate for this theory. Let's begin. So what is Adams' equity theory of motivation? According to Adams' equity theory, an individual's level of motivation is determined and or evaluated based on their perception of fairness. But what is fairness, and how do we reasonably measure it? Well, at its core, fairness is an intrinsic concept which is completely dependent on how we uniquely assess the favorability of social interactions based on the ratio of inputs to outputs or outcomes. An input is essentially an individual's contribution to the effective and successful functioning of his or her environment, and usually takes the form of character traits and or proficiencies such as diligence and the level or levels of formal education. Outputs or outcomes, however, can be thought of as the reward one receives or earns following the determination of how valuable his or her input is. Customarily, these outputs are exhibited as compensation, but can also be demonstrated informally as favoritism. The reference individual refers to a specific person or group of people who function or operate in a similar capacity to whom they are being compared to. Of course, equity would be fair treatment, and its opposite, inequity, would be the absence of fair treatment. As you can see by the presented table, equity can be subdivided into two states, satisfaction and acceptance. The former, satisfaction, requiring a high input for a high output, and acceptance requiring a low input and then resulting in a low output. Inequity, however, being the absence of fairness, can be subdivided into two states, distress and overpayment. Distress would require a high input and result in a low output, whereas overpayment would require a low input and would result in a high output. An advocate of Adams' equity theory of motivation, in my opinion, would aim to employ the following approach. 1. He or she would create fair evaluative criteria upon which compensation can be determined. Avoidance of preferential treatment based on extraneous factors such as familiarity or prior companionship. 2. Foster equal opportunity for advancement within the workplace. Coordinating with the heads of department to ensure that each individual has been granted every opportunity to ensure his or her elevation within the company, consequently rewarding deserving candidates. 3. Influence positive reinforcement for all efforts exhibited, ensuring that employees are encouraged to perform better during instances of shortcomings and are fairly rewarded after successes.